as Mary goes through the community, what you need to realize is, or it would be good for you to realize, is there are many places in the community, whether it's the tech showcase or groups or journeys, that you can go and look and get yourself introduced to people and companies that in your future maybe are places that you would like to work or join or have an impact on. So I put a link in the chat. You can click on that link. Our community is that we're a nonprofit, a 501c3, and all access is free. So you can go into the chat there and click on that link that I put in there and join the community. And then that makes everything in the community available to you, which could be whether you're searching to make contacts for a future position, or whether you want to post information on a study you're doing, whether you want to have conversations in the community, which are wide open, or whether you just want to learn more about water. That's what we're all about. And we're in our 6th year of this. And so we're in 88 countries across the globe. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mary. And Mary and I are co-executive directors, and Mary is the founder of Global Waterworks.
Yeah, and Global Water works only when we all work on it together and connect with our water. So, and also when we apply smart technologies to help us gain the visibility that we've never had before, because we say, we have a brief 1-minute video here, and then I'll just show you a way to connect and stay involved in the community, and I'll turn it over to our other speakers. But we believe the future is here. It's just unevenly distributed, and we can all have resilience and abundant water resources if we share in the knowledge and technology. And this will start in just a second too.
You can buy a car while you're on this. No.
Yeah, so that is sort of our philosophy, and what we invite you to do is scan the tech database in the platform and sign on. It's just an email if you want. We need to add you, Stuart, the Water Inno group, to our collaboration partners, because you do such a super job in creating these conversations. And all of you are welcome to join, and when you join, we encourage you to take a very simple journey to become a Global Waterworks ambassador, which has a tour about the resources available. You know, the value of technology and people and process allows you to create your profile and to invite other change agents to journeys like harmful algae blooms, smart sewers, efficient water management, and also you can join groups and share the benefits of everyone reconnecting with their water. But we'll stay here, and we're happy to answer questions, and we'll turn it over to others for the chat. But please do, Frank and I will put our emails in there, and look forward to supporting you all with your careers. We think you could probably find jobs with the people who are in here, and any way we can help, we think the future is up to the next generation. So
I can see that, Christopher, you just joined. Hope you enjoy the site. And if you go into the ambassador, like Mary said, you'll get a tour of the site to show you all the elements there. There's a great deal of information in the community. And if you go into the ambassador journey. You'll get a tour, a video tour, so you can see where to go and how to take best advantage of the community.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you, Mary. The resources you have are sensational, and I know the emissaries will be excited about diving in and seeing how they can become engaged. I'd love to turn over to you, Dave, for you to share your presentation. And I'll just say, Dave happens to be one of the standouts in the municipal industry of water. He is very young-minded and young at heart, of course. And he is one of the innovators in the municipal water sector and is venturesome thinking, taking risks and looking at the new opportunities and really how the entire wastewater industry is going to transform and enter this new era of innovation. So deeply grateful for you and your leadership and your support of all these new innovations. So I'll let you take it away. Dave, are you there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You know, I'm used to using MS Teams. And so I have 3 screens and I was struggling to find the mute button. I'm really sorry.
No worries, it's all good.
Stuart, that was a really nice introduction.
There's life after mute.
Yeah. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm going to kind of blaze through this. I know that, you know, in this day and age when we get together on Zoom meetings and everything and people, you know, the presentations come up. It can be long. I'm going to try to just really kind of touch the surface here to maybe inspire some questions. But like I said, I've been working in East Bay for a little more than 15 years now. So East Bay Mud, where is it? You know, it sounds like a lot of you guys are from the Bay Area or you're familiar with it, but Oakland's right here. You know, our water comes from the beautiful Sierra, you know, the McKellamey watershed. You know, we store our water in the upcountry. We bring it across the Delta, 90 miles of aqueducts to our service area. And I would say that, you know, with East Bay Mud, with this water utility, there are so many opportunities to get involved with different things, whether you're interested in pipes that I work with, pumping plants, engineering reservoirs, water storage, greenhouse gases, emergency preparedness, wastewater, water treatment, environmental stewardship of our land. We have so much land that we are environmental stewards of. There's just so much opportunity at a water utility. It's not just a boring government agency. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here. So, you know, this is how we used to do our work. The distribution system at East Bay Mud, you know, was installed over decades. We have pipe in our system back from the late 1800s. And, you know, that's, you know, up in, you know, in the early 1900s, 1940s, 50s, 60s, when things really got built out. This was kind of the way that a lot of the pipe that was put in the ground, the water that comes into people's houses. Here's a map of you know, Oakland's here. But just, you know, we have 4,000 miles of pipe. So you go from the Bay Area across to the East Coast and back to Chicago. That's how much pipe that we monitor, evaluate, and look to replace in our system. It's a big system, 1.5 million customers that we serve. And we have different materials that are in our system. So this is obviously one of our big problems. We lose a lot of water from main breaks. The pipes are getting old. They're breaking at an increased rate. We actually have 1,000 main breaks every year. We have to go out and fix. This is a bad one, but we're losing a lot of water. And during a drought condition right now, this is not good. It doesn't look good. We need to minimize this. We need to stop, losing water in these cases. So, you know, when I think about innovation, which I do a lot of right now, I always look for, well, not always, I look for, inspiration throughout. And Steph Curry is someone that myself and my teammates have looked to in the last 6 or 7 years. He's really changed the game, the NBA game. He's taking shots well beyond the 3-point line. And he's in, other people are kind of following his lead. He uses values, he uses teamwork, he uses collaboration. He's from the Bay Area too. So when he was an East Bay Mud customer. So we kind of use him as an inspiration in some of our work. This is just kind of a chart of, everybody else does 3 points down here. Well, if you really want to innovate, if you really want to be a change agent and get out there, you got to separate from everybody. And that's what Steph Curry has done. And that's kind of what we think about doing our work. So plan is an aerial view of Oakland. We have a building down here, downtown, big building in downtown Oakland. I work over here in the construction headquarters right here. Over in West Oakland, here's Lake Merritt. This is the cycle that I've created over the last 5 years in terms of how we do our work. We look at the status quo, how we do our work, we brainstorm, we come up with plans, we pilot test, we evaluate, how are we doing? We always are asking ourselves questions. We refine our methods and we recommend. And we kind of have this quote here in terms of how it's our mindset, it's our culture here with our work. So, in the beginning, this is actually a design drawing for a new pipeline and all the other utilities in the street that we have to do, that we have to deal with. You've got a clarified diagram buy-in all in this process right here. I don't want to run through this whole thing because I don't want to bore you with everything, but I guess my main message is that with an innovation cycle, you've really got to constantly approach things and ask questions along the way in a consistent fashion to get a good value out of your work. Collaborating, empowering others to take risks. I have a group of staff and I want them to ask those questions and take those risks. We look at machine learning. We've actually got into the whole artificial intelligence of selecting pipes. There's lots of value that we found in that. In the process, you've got to build allies. I'm trying to make change in an organization of about 2,000 people. And there are so many people set in their ways. And so as I build an army of allies in the process, it always helps. You've got to be flexible and adaptive. You can't you can't get fixated on one idea and move forward with that. You've got to be able to see a bigger picture and learn from others and consider other ways of thinking. And the metrics you have to evaluate. So I know there's a lot behind what I'm talking about here, but I'm really just brushing the surface of kind of the work that I do. Of course, communication. Everybody always stresses communication, and we communicate a lot here at East Bay Mud. This is a typical pipeline construction crew that we have out in the field replacing pipe. I work with these guys all the time in terms of how things are going out in the field, how the work is going, and what lessons are they learning, and then how can we apply that into the future. We always question things. Are we doing as much as we can? You always have to fine tune and have that constant mindset of continuous improvement. And then at the end of the day, you document, just like you guys are in school, you have to write reports. You put together your findings, conclusions, you make a strong argument, and then you can move forward with some change and innovation. Something else I do is I get out and talk with other utilities, LA. I've been back to Washington, DC, up into New York, Boston, Portland, Seattle, Denver, talked to a lot of different utilities and traveled around pre-pandemic. And it's always really helpful to gain those connections. This is kind of a boring slide, management and board support and all that. Questions, I guess that's just kind of a little sharing of what I'm working on right now. I'd say one of the most that I don't have documented here, one of the things that I'm most excited about right now, stop sharing. One of the most things that I'm excited about right now is that I'm working together with UC Berkeley. We are entering a collaboration with Berkeley professors to create what we call a smart infrastructure center. Berkeley has a campus called the Richmond Field Station, and we are actually taking an old building that hasn't been used right now, and we're going to create a research center focused on innovation, focused on research, focused on making smart, intelligent solutions for the water and wastewater industry. And we're just starting that out right now. And so in the next year, it's going to be, there's a lot more to come with that in the next year in terms of what we actually create. So
that's really exciting, Dave. I'm really happy to hear that. Congratulations.
So David, a question for you.
You guys have any questions?
So a question for this, Frank Slovenec. How are you evaluating technology to improve as you replace infrastructure to improve the overall capabilities of your both drinking and wastewater delivery? I mean, how are you using technology?
Well, the technology in pipes, Frank, there's been a lot of new hazard resilient pipelines that have been coming on the market in the last 10 years, and they've been all tested at Cornell University. I don't have a picture of Cornell University up there. So there's a lot of new tech in pipelines and connections and the ability for pipelines to move back and forth and deflect back and forth in case we get a big earthquake out of here, which we will someday. So there's lots of new technology, I guess, in the actual infrastructure. Okay, there's a lot of new technology, the machine learning stuff that I talked about.
Yeah.
That takes into account all of our main breaks, all of our materials, the geography of our land, the density of the customers, the environmental factors, and looks for pattern recognition in where pipes are breaking right now, so where we can go target our replacements better. That's one of the neater technologies that we've worked on in the last few years. We're looking at GPS solutions, GNSS systems that, we all use the Google Maps, right, to drive around. So we want our whole system to be mapped more accurately. So we're looking at more advanced GPS solutions to improve our actual maps, to get them more up to speed. Right now, they're not all that accurate. And we know that we need to do a better job with that. Those are a couple examples.
So we do welcome you to come into Global Waterworks. Global Waterworks has a very unique technical product showcase. We have probably the largest tech showcase in the industry. You can come in and look at and search on any area of water in our showcase, and companies and technologies will show up that can assist you in what you're doing.
Yeah, I wrote it down. I'm going to take a look at it tomorrow. Okay.
Good. Thanks, Frank. So I'd love for Sandra to chime in here because of your career and discipline, from being knowledgeable of what's happening in both the municipal water area as well as an entrepreneur with water. I'd love for you to just share some thoughts with our group here.
Well, thanks. Yeah, my presentation will be completely the opposite of David's. I'm not technical at all. I really work from the heart, and I've always been that way. I talked a little bit about Gary Snyder and the beatnik poetry movement and how I got really involved in conservation from a poetry perspective. And then the humanitarian work that I did, which I really just sort of fell into because I was an investigative journalist. My background was to have undergraduate degrees, as I said, in Spanish literature and English literature with an emphasis on creative writing. And I graduated from UC Davis. And then I went on to work as a journalist, and I have a master's in investigative journalism through the Kiplinger program at Ohio State University. And I also lived in Spain, and I had a Fulbright scholarship also as a journalist. And that's all before I started what I've been doing now. So I'm kind of dating myself, but I've always followed my heart and wanted to make a difference. That's been the consistent thread throughout my career, is that I want to leave the world a better place. And you can do that, you know, from an engineering technical perspective, or you can do it in an eclectic way, the way I have. And it can be rewarding and it can be impactful. So just to give an example of the work that I've been doing for the last 12 years as the founder and CEO of Eco Lunchbox, we brought to market in 2008 the first 100% plastic-free line of food containers. People thought I was crazy. I mean, they were just like, why do you even worry about this? You know, I mean, in 2008, people weren't aware that there was basically a particulate plastic matter throughout our oceans, especially in the gyres. And what some of us know as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is actually just a huge smog area with very small pieces of plastic that are, you know, throughout that whole area, as well as in multiple other gyres. And, you know, as we've been hearing, you know, every minute a garbage truck of plastic is being added, you know, to our oceans. And if we keep on the same track, it'll be 2 garbage trucks. So in my work, and I don't have a real organized presentation, I thought we were just going to do Q&A, but in my work, I have melded my passion for writing, my passion for the planet, with, you know, my business and my book, and everything is all about educating, inspiring, and activating people to use less plastic for their own health as well as the health of the environment. And so I just kind of reach out to all of you students, and I encourage you to ask yourself, you know, not necessarily what's really practical to do as a career, but what really wakes you up? What makes you feel alive? What do you think you just couldn't get enough of? Because that's how you're going to find excellence in whatever you do, through that heart song. You know, and for me, water has been a common thread through all the eclectic things that I have done. You know, and in some ways I can quantitatively measure it. You know, I raised with a billionaire philanthropist literally billions of dollars that we invested in Vietnam. You know, tens of thousands of people that I personally worked with. Before I was the development director, I was on the ground in the villages on my motorbike, you know, working with the villagers to figure out where they're going to lay the pipes so that they don't have to carry their water from some faraway well, you know, and then we scaled that across the whole country, you know, so there are hundreds of thousands of people out there that from the beginning, first I went as a journalist and I covered Vietnam. I fell in love with a nonprofit. I followed that path. I quit my job. I volunteered. We're on the ground. I'm the development director, and it goes, wow, you know? So just if you follow something that you're really passionate about, you just don't know where you're going to go with it. And that's like the fun of life. So in my current endeavor, with Eco Lunchbox, we've sold over 1 million lunchboxes, and we quantify our impact. So we worked with a team of MBA students from the Presidio with the MBA program focused on sustainability, and came up with an SROI. So basically it's a sustainable return on investment for what we're doing, and quantifying the estimated amount of plastic that our user community of our lunchboxes is averting from use and disposal every year. So my little company is averting, through our user community that has purchased our products and have decided to use plastic-free products instead of disposable single-use products, tens of millions of pieces of trash every single year. And I say this not to just brag, but to inspire you all, like, literally, I started this business on my kitchen table, and individuals can ripple their effect. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and sorry I don't have some fancy presentation, but just
That's
have
great,
fun with
Sandra.
it. Go for it. Be passionate. And if you love water, there are millions of different ways that you can make a difference and make money and support yourself.
Sandra, thank you. I mean, everyone appreciates the passion. And as you said, that you don't need to be linear and fancy about it. You just need to be, as you referred to, in your heart and do what you love. And from that, everything flows just like water. So how about if we open this up to the emissaries to ask some questions? I'm sure you all have a number of questions for different people here. So who wants to start off?
I can go. I have a question actually for Sandra. I'm just curious. Well, first of all, I admire what you do. And I think that just hearing about your career trajectory is really interesting. And it's cool to see how you've kind of connected it all back to water. But I was just curious how you got involved with lunchboxes in particular, and what drew you to that space in general.
Yeah, great question. I was never in consumer products. As I said, I had no background in business, really. I was an investigative journalist, but when I had kids back in the early 2000s, and I started to look into food safety and products and plastic and which plastics were going to be safe and which plastics weren't, all my investigative journalism skills sent me down some deep rabbit holes around plastic. And I was like, whoa, this is not good, what's going on with plastic. And this, again, was in the early 2000s. And some of you were, born around that time. And people were not worried about plastic. They kept saying, well, I'm sure if it were, not healthy for people and planet, that our government would be, regulating or protecting us against, bisphenol A and other chemicals that are commonly found in plastic. But I realized, and I happened to run into a researcher at UC Berkeley when my kids were really young, and his kids were playing at the same park that my kids were. Serendipity, right? You just let life flow and unfold. And he was like, yeah, I'm doing some rat studies over at UC Berkeley, looking at small, low-level exposures of bisphenol A, this estrogen mimicking chemical that is commonly found in plastics. Even now, even BPA-free plastics, by the way, they've taken out the bisphenol A and they've put in BPS, bisphenol substitute, which isn't tested for and which, isn't monitored, and there isn't the consumer awareness around. But anyway, I was talking with this guy from UC Berkeley, and he said, yeah, even tiny little bits of bisphenol A are having very detrimental effects in the rats. And we're seeing, obesity and cardiac issues and diabetes and all this. He's like, yeah, I would love to avoid it for my kids, but there was nothing on the market. So I was like, well, if I need this, probably other health conscious and environmental people also need it. And, I've grown up around the ocean. I'm a sailor, a kayaker. My family has a house on Tamales Bay and the Point Reyes National Seashore. So I've seen, the environmental effects of plastic. Now, at that time, there wasn't the same awareness, that there were tons and tons of plastics, just breaking down in our oceans and poisoning our marine life. But of course, we've been hearing, for generations about the six-pack plastics that get around the turtles' necks. And we know that, plastic is polluting. But when I first started my company, we didn't realize how much. So it was a people, the health aspect of plastic, plus the planet, right? And then my company is people, planet, profit. So it's a triple bottom line company. We're not just measuring the profit. Our mission is what brought us to life. So we're a certified B Corporation and a California green business. And we, measure our activities and our upsides.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I have a question for David. So I was wondering if you have any recommendations for people that are looking to get into your field, as they're just starting off.
Yeah, so we have engineering aid positions, or just, you know, there's just entry level jobs that you can jump into just to kind of get a feel for what you're doing. I've hired students that are just working part-time, you know, while they're going to school, just to get a taste of it. So if you're interested in the field, and there's a company local, I would pursue that option. There's just so much to learn, right? You don't want to get, I don't think you want to get pigeonholed in one area. You kind of want to, when you start out, maybe you have an idea in your mind what you want to try, and you get in there, and then you're going to discover something else that maybe is interesting for you. So just, there's lots of entry level jobs. So,
And in one of our upcoming sessions, David will be with us and can share more details about job opportunities that he may know of at East Bay Mud or others. So you'll have that in the upcoming weeks. Ben, you got a question?
Not this time around, but yeah, this is really interesting. Thanks for the talk.
Chris?
Nothing from me right now, but I appreciate you coming out. I'm gonna be checking out the Global Waterworks and Bachelor's program after the Zoom. So,
How about Emma?
I kind of have a question for David. I guess my question is, do you ever have to like justify line work with like environmentalists who say that it causes ecosystem degradation, that sort of thing? And like, so I guess like how do you do trade-offs in terms of like environmental aspects versus like the pipeline? That, you know, people, you know, you need the pipelines for is a certain work that you do and to create this, you know, wastewater and water quality aspects. So it's like, how do you justify the trade-offs of those two?
yeah, that's a really good question, Emma. It is a challenge. It's a challenge. We look, let me give you an example. We do have a project where we do trenchless pipe renewal. So we don't have to dig up the whole street. We only dig up little parts here. Well, what does that do in terms of the environment? There's less dirt that we have to move out of the area, and thus there's less greenhouse gases that we have to use or that get used up. There's less equipment to be used. So there are actually triple bottom line calculators when you're looking at actual construction practices to come up with some sustainability benefits for that. So it is something that we look at. Sometimes you can't get it all the time, but it's something that we do look at. We install ductile iron pipe also. Ductile iron pipe is 99% recycled materials. So that's a nice added benefit for that new pipe that's going in the ground. It takes a lot of energy to actually make it, but it's, you know, almost 99% recycled material. So sustainability is a big thing that we look at. Climate change, right now, the drought, it's on everybody's mind. So, and you know, by the way, you're at Boulder, right? So I'm working with a guy named Brad Wham at UC Boulder right now. He's actually doing a lot of testing for us in the lab there. It's called the Energy Space Testing Laboratory there. We're actually doing some testing of pipelines at UC Boulder right now. So I get on Zoom calls with those guys from time to time.
Very cool.
I have something to add to that, actually. You know, I live right next to the Lafayette Reservoir, which is a reservoir that's not used for water anymore, that's managed by East Bay Mud. And when you talk about, you know, balancing the benefits of these new projects, you know, against the environmental downside, it's a very challenging thing for East Bay Mud to do. I was a reporter for local newspapers and have covered East Bay mud over the years, not recently, and also covered water at the state level. I work for Associated Press in Sacramento. And, you know, the utility district has to do the safest thing at the most cost-effective price, generally. I mean, there are other things that are certainly factored in, but it's often the public process that keeps East Bay Mud prioritizing the environmental impact. And I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that, but I'm just speaking at a very high level. But I wanted to just share a little experience that I had about an East Bay Mud project in my backyard that I got noticed as a part of the public process that within a certain distance of my home, they were going to be putting in a new pipeline from the Lafayette treatment plant to a new development in a nearby town called Moraga. And they were going to be running the pipeline through this open space area managed by East Bay Mud called the Lafayette Reservoir Open Space Area. And so I just happened to get a notice, and they showed a map and this dotted line with where the pipeline is going to go. And I thought, well, I like to hike up there. I think I'm going to go see where they're putting the pipeline in, because I'm not just a water lover, I'm also a tree hugger. So I walked up there and I followed the line, and lo and behold, the line went right through this huge oak tree, like the biggest oak tree in the whole open space area, massive, like the mothership. And I was like, whoa, why would they put the line like right through the middle of this oak tree? So, I mean, having been a journalist and everything, I know who to call. And they're just like, well, you know, we drew a line using our ruler because we're engineers from the water treatment plant to where it needs to go. And sorry, that's just where it went. So I called an arborist and he said, well, this tree was started by an acorn around the time of Christopher Columbus's days. It's the oldest tree in this whole basin. And basically, you know, it's the mother of all the other black oak trees. And I was like, come on, guys, you know, and I was trying to talk to all the engineers over at East Bay Mud. I was like, can you just kind of like wiggle it around so that like this huge tree isn't taken out because of this project? And they're just like, no, you can't do it. So my sister and I started a petition in the neighborhood, and we started to lead walking tours up to the tree. We call the tree Old Chris because it dates to the time of, you know, that 1400s is what the arborist said. And then pretty soon we had our city council people out, and we had the East Bay Mud board out at our house walking, and we had the engineers in their slick shoes slipping around out there. And eventually, after a lot of work and a lot of newspaper articles, we got them to go around the canopy of the tree and get the water to where they wanted. But it was not the top priority because it really wasn't that convenient. And I'm sure it added delay and cost to the project. Somebody in an office had a topo map with a straight edge, and that's how they wanted to design the project. So the public process is a really important process, you know, when it comes to balancing the needs of people and pocketbook, you know, cost and needs for healthy water with the planet.
That is brings to mind, it's so interesting, Sandra, what you've done. And I know we're close to time, but I'm going to put a little app in the chat. A group out of the UK has engaged. We disengage people with their water because East Bay Mud and others typically do so good at bringing water in and water out. We don't even realize a household uses the amount of a small car goes in and outside of a home every day in water. And you would never bring that back and, you know, put it in your home from the grocery store. But I'm curious if you guys have thoughts on how to engage people in water. And there's a group out of the UK that's engaged 750,000 households in a simple app called getwaterfit.co.uk. You can check out. I've shared it with East Bay Mud in an earlier iteration, but the idea of if we could connect every single person with their water so they knew where they could see where they use it, how much they could save, how much energy goes down the drain. You know, when they take a shower, they're not thinking about the hot water being an additional cost. Would you guys have interest in being involved in that as a North American launch?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I can speak for the group. That sounds incredible.
It does
Yeah,
sound incredible.
Yeah.
It sounds a little out of my area. The only thing I would add in addition to that is, as a California green business, my business and all the other California green businesses, we do track our water. So it'd be cool to have an app, not just for residential use, but also for businesses.
Yeah, it does have a business version available too. And the folks, the Madaus Water Management team, they write the books on conservation. And Charles at East Bay Mud, I know, works with them a little bit. But you guys are all sort of thought leaders. I know Stuart's really always on the front lines, bringing in people who didn't think about water before. And we so appreciate your creativity. So I just put, it says about Get Water Fit. That's sort of the corporate thing, but you could, we have an efficiency group in our Global Waterworks community that's going to help launch this. A guy from the EPA who wrote a program on demand management and how we engage citizens. But Frank and I welcome anyone, and we're happy to work with you, Stuart, to say, hey, let's help the world be aware, because then we can innovate if we actually have data on how people use it.
Thank you, Mary. That's a great resource. I'd love to learn more about that. Before we end today, I just want to see if Giulietta, do you have any question that you'd like to ask?
I can usually think of a question. Sandra, thank you for your comments just now. I'm wondering, for getting like the public involved, how did you know how to do that? You said you use your skills as an investigative journalist, but I'm wondering if there's like a kind of like centralized network of like mentors that are like, we all care about the environment and want to be able to like advocate for, either wildlife or for ecosystems that can't advocate for themselves. They don't have like the legal personhood and rights of a corporation. So are there mentors? How did you know what to do?
Well, I guess in my case, having worked as a journalist covering a lot of controversial issues, I had seen what was effective in terms of leveraging change and getting the attention of the decision makers. And once you start getting things in the newspaper and you have a few hundred signatures and you have pictures of the East Bay board members and our mayor and different people walking up in the hills, and pictures of this tree in the newspaper, and the arborist saying, that this tree is the oldest in the whole Lafayette Reservoir Basin, you connect with people's hearts. So I'll go back to that. We're in this world of, Zoom and computers, and certainly there's the possibility of doing an online petition, which is always good, but there's no substitute for really getting boots on the ground and getting people to fall in love with that tree, fall in love with that creek, and it's so energizing and empowering when you can connect with your environment like that, that you will surprise yourself, and people around you will be surprised at the lengths that they're willing to go to save what they love. So, being together as actual humans, if possible, even though we're having this pandemic, and not just relying on the online petitions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fantastic, Sandra. Caroline, Madeline, do you have a question that you'd like to ask?
I do not have any questions, actually. I really enjoyed everyone's presentations though tonight. We're so grateful to have you here and sharing with us and our emissaries. Caroline, do you have any questions at all?
I don't have any questions, but I did really enjoy the presentation. Thank you guys so much for coming and sharing with us. Sure.
Our pleasure. And I really enjoyed learning from Sandra and David too. So it's funny, as Sandra or as I think you just mentioned, the heart of what matters is, how we connect personally, and we're all 70% water. So I think, Stuart, you always get that in your innovation sessions. We all resonate with it and either make it a positive connection or can destroy that molecule through our negative energies and treatment. So,
Well, and our intention here is to unite the water industry. It's to bring together all the minds, the hearts, and the souls that are focused on water to begin to connect and collaborate. And even though you all haven't met each other, like Frank and Mary haven't met David before, or Sandra, we've now made that connection for you all to connect and expand your community, your network, to begin to work together. And as you know, I am most excited about our young future leaders in the water industry. So deeply grateful for the emissaries and their participation in our program and your leadership in sharing your wisdom. And clearly there's going to be a lot more to come, and just deeply grateful for thank you for all that you've done and you continue to do, and you sharing your precious time with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
just too. Pleasure.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Yeah, you
Thank
guys
you.
too.
Thank you for
Thanks.
coming.
Okay.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
all. Thanks, Dan.